There's something about him that feels off. Not obviously wrong, not enough to walk away immediately, but enough to make you question your instincts. He says all the right things, yet something in his energy feels tight, controlled, almost fragile. And the truth is, insecurity in a man doesn't always look like weakness. Sometimes it looks like confidence turned up just a little too loud. You start noticing it in the way he reacts when you get attention. At first, it feels like he cares. He asks who texted you, who liked your post, why that guy smiled at you. But then it lingers. The questions become sharper, more frequent, almost like he's trying to measure something he can't quite control. And without realizing it, you begin shrinking parts of yourself just to keep the peace. That's not protection. That's quiet insecurity asking you to dim your light so he can feel brighter. Then there's the subtle competition. Instead of celebrating you, he matches you. If you share a win, he suddenly has a bigger one. If you express a feeling, he redirects the conversation back to himself. It's not always obvious, but it leaves you feeling unseen. And here's the deeper truth. A secure man expands with you, but an insecure one competes with you, even in moments that were never meant to be a contest. And the most dangerous part? He might not even realize he's doing it. Because insecurity doesn't always show up as fear. Sometimes it hides behind control, ego, and the need to always feel enough in a way that silently drains you. But what happens when his insecurity stops being subtle and starts affecting the way you see yourself? It gets more intense in ways you don't immediately recognize, because insecurity doesn't always explode. Sometimes it slowly rewires the way you feel about yourself. You start catching it in the way he reacts when you express independence. The moment you make a decision without him, even something small, his energy shifts. He might not say, "You can't," but he'll question it just enough to make you second-guess yourself. And over time, you begin to ask for permission in places where you once felt completely free. You'll also notice how he handles your boundaries. A secure man respects them, even when he doesn't fully understand them. But an insecure man? He tests them. He pushes, jokes, minimizes, or makes you feel like you're being too much for simply knowing your limits. And here's where it becomes dangerous. Because the more you explain yourself, the more he learns how to negotiate your standards down without you even realizing it's happening. Then there's the emotional inconsistency. One moment he's deeply invested, almost intense in his affection. The next he pulls back, becomes distant, or acts cold for no clear reason. And you're left trying to decode what changed, replaying conversations in your mind, wondering if you did something wrong. But the truth is, it's not about you. It's about his internal instability. Insecurity creates emotional unpredictability because he doesn't feel stable within himself. And slowly, without noticing, you shift from being desired to being responsible for his emotional balance. You start managing his moods, choosing your words carefully, avoiding anything that might trigger that subtle tension again. But here's the question most women don't ask soon enough. When did love start feeling like something you have to manage instead of something you can simply experience? And this is where it starts to affect you in ways that go deeper than the relationship itself. Because the longer you stay in that dynamic, the more you begin to disconnect from your natural instincts. You stop trusting what you feel. You start overanalyzing everything. And without realizing it, you become smaller, quieter, more careful. Not because you want to, but because something in you is trying to avoid the emotional friction he creates. You'll notice how he reacts when you shine without him. When you're confident, happy, or simply at peace on your own, there's a subtle shift in him. Maybe it's a sarcastic comment, maybe it's distance, maybe it's a sudden change in mood. But the message underneath it is clear. Your independence unsettles him. And instead of rising to meet you, he tries to pull you back into a space where he feels more in control. Another sign that often goes unnoticed is how he handles vulnerability. He might avoid deep emotional conversations or twist them into something else. Or he might open up just enough to pull you in, then shut down the moment things get real. That push and pull isn't depth, it's fear. Because true emotional intimacy requires security, and insecurity resists anything that feels like exposure. And then comes the quiet manipulation that doesn't look like manipulation. He makes you feel guilty for things that were never wrong. He reframes situations so that you question your own memory. Not in an obvious way, but in small, consistent moments that slowly make you doubt yourself. And once that doubt settles in, he doesn't have to control you, because you start controlling yourself. But here's the part most people don't realize until it's too late. Insecurity doesn't just change how he behaves, it changes what you tolerate. So the real question becomes, how do you recognize the moment when understanding him turns into losing yourself? And this is the moment everything becomes clear. Because the real danger was never just his insecurity. It was how long you were willing to make excuses for it. There's a quiet line in every relationship, and once it's crossed, you're no longer just loving someone. You're slowly abandoning yourself. You begin to realize that you've been adjusting, softening, filtering your words, shrinking your needs, all to maintain a version of peace that never truly feels peaceful. And the hardest truth to face is this. You didn't lose your confidence overnight. You traded it piece by piece every time you chose his comfort over your clarity. A secure connection doesn't require you to constantly explain your worth. It doesn't make you feel like your freedom is a threat or your voice is too much. Real emotional safety feels calm, not confusing. It feels grounding, not draining. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know the difference. Your body has been trying to tell you for a long time. Because here's what insecure men rarely understand. Control is not attraction. Jealousy is not love. And your silence is not peace. It's just the absence of conflict in a space where your truth no longer feels welcome. And now you're left with a choice that most women try to avoid. Do you keep adjusting to fit into his insecurity? Or do you return to the version of yourself that never needed permission to exist in the first place? Because the moment you fully see it, you can't unsee it. And once you stop questioning your worth, everything about what you accept begins to change.